Hello everybody and welcome to Nathan on Shuffle. This is a special episode that I'm doing today. I'm really excited about. This is my latest vinyl haul video. I did one several months ago. I kind of try to space these out about every 4 months is kind of the plan. So every 4 months I just give kind of a catalog of all the vinyl that I have received. So this video covers basically September through December of 2021 of all the albums that I've received in. So this is really going to be fun. It's just a fun kind of chance for me to just show off kind of the things that I've been into lately and that have been fun for me. It's also kind of a retrospective because many of these albums I have featured on the channel in some way. Either they're new albums and I did new album reviews, or they're part of like the classic album shows that me and my wife do. But there's a couple that I haven't even really discussed at all on the channel yet, so some cool surprises. There's a couple in here that I'm just showing off everything that I've gotten, even if it's not related to prog necessarily. I know this is mainly a prog channel, so you guys might have a few picks here that you're kind of confused, like, why does a prog guy get that album? But, you know, I like a variety of different music, and so I'm just trying to give a complete view of all of the music that I've received on the vinyl format. And so expect these kind of videos about every 4 months, because I feel like that's a pretty good period where I get enough that it's worthy of a video. You know, if it was every month, there'd only be a couple, really, that in certain months especially. And I'm trying to kind of pare down my vinyl collecting habits so I don't like break my bank as much as I have been. This last year I did a lot of spending on vinyl. I still plan to collect vinyl. I'm not like going against it, but I'm trying to just be very streamlined and only get the things that are of highest importance to me in the music landscape. So let's start with the first one here. This is the Plastic Ono Band from John Lennon. I did a couple shows for talking about Beatles solo albums, so that's where this came from. I thought it would be cool to include this John Lennon album, and this is one is pretty highly regarded as one of his early picks here. One of his early records, I believe, from 1970. So really a good record. I love John Lennon and his contributions. You know, it's a little bit rawer than typically what I like. You know, it's kind of stripped down and emotional performances, but definitely a classic that I think is worthy of a good music collection. The next one is one, of course, that is highly important to me, and I talked quite a bit about it on the channel. This is Neil Morse Band, Innocence in Danger. I have it signed by Neil. This is a very special copy to me. I'm really happy to have this in my collection. I thought this was an excellent album. Neil Morse Band really went to the next level with this. There's it's a 3 vinyl set, but of course it's 2 discs, kind of a double album, with the first disc being the Innocent side and the second disc being the Danger side with the 2 epics. And because it doesn't quite fit neatly like it does on a CD, on vinyl it's actually 3 LPs, and it's kind of cool. The first LP is representing the Innocent side is actually a white vinyl, and then the middle vinyl is gray, so it's kind of in that gray area, and then the final one is black. So I showed it off a bit in my review of this album, so I probably will try to keep this brief, but you know, here's part of the packaging here. Really fantastic. Like I said, the white that's typified here, then you've got the gray, as I mentioned, and then as a separate one you have the last LP, and that one is just standard black. So, but it's a really cool set that I really enjoyed, and of course one of my favorite albums of the year. I've talked about it in my big albums of the year show. Here's the sleeve that they come in, so I really appreciated how this came out, and I think it's a really great package. Alright, so next I picked up the latest Leprous album. This is Aphelion, one of my top 16 albums of the year from that show, if you want to check that out. And of course I did an album review of this as well. Just excellent, kind of heavy prog, but very emotional, very expressive. I like the newer Leprous records. I feel like some people talk about that they're kind of past their prime a little bit, that people don't like their newer sound as much as they like the classic kind of heavier sound, but I really love this album and their last one, Pitfalls, both excellent and more in my lane when it comes to what I like in music. So I really appreciate these albums. And of course it's a nice gatefolds, and I believe it's a clear vinyl, which is kind of cool. So really cool. I really dug this record, and I think it's a really strong one that's definitely worth mentioning here on the channel. Alright, so the next one, another album that I reviewed and talked about and was part of my top 16 albums of the year show as well. This is Small Tape, The Hungry Heart, a German artist that's really talented, kind of skirts the lines between, progressive but also classical and jazz, and just has even some modern electronica type styles. So it's a very eclectic record with a lot of different things going for it, and I just really appreciated this one. I bought this from the artist's Bandcamp page, and it came promptly, and it was a really cool package. I like all the artwork. It's really a pretty package, so I was happy with this one. Really great record from 2021. Next, we've got one that was talked a lot about in progressive circles. This is The Quest by Yes. I picked it up in vinyl. I know a lot of people have, mixed feelings maybe about this one, and I don't say that it's best, that it stands up to like their classic 70s stuff, but I think it's pretty good for a modern day Yes record. I think Steve Howe is really doing an incredible job on it. I think there's some really nice songs. Here's a picture of all the guys. I think they, have some good collaborative stuff on here, and it's just a pleasant listen, so I really appreciated that. And I got it in kind of a light blue form here, so just kind of fun. I thought it was really nicely done and a cool little package for this album. Alright, next, this was basically part of my classic albums shows that I was doing with my wife. That's why I picked this one up. This is The Who. Their album Tommy, of course, a classic double album, concept record that's kind of a rock staple, I would say, from the late 60s. Really classic, definitely an important one, I think, to have in a good rock and classic rock kind of collection. Just a really cool record. And I talked about it, like I said, on that Classic Albums with Jana, so that show's available if you want to look it up for my thoughts on the record and for Jana's thoughts for her first time listen. So really cool, and glad I picked this one up. Along the same vein, this was also a classic album choice. This was Sticky Fingers by the Rolling Stones, so I picked this one up to go along with the show. Of course, the classic cover there. This is kind of a standard version. I know there was kind of an old school version with like an actual real zipper that was actual functioning zipper, but of course this isn't really that. This is just kind of a basic newer copy of it. So but there you go, the Rolling Stones. This is my first Rolling Stones record that I have. Not typically a big Rolling Stones guy, but thought it would be a good one to feature on the channel, so that was that one. Here is Dream Theater, A View from the Top of the World. Of course, another one of my top 16 albums of 2021, one that I heavily reviewed, that I really loved. I think it's a little bit of a return to form. I mean, they've been doing great stuff all along, so it's not like, they've been terrible and now they're all of a sudden back into prominence. But I thought this was really strong. It just showcases the band at their best and really just playing their hearts out and just doing what they want to do. And a lot of lengthy pieces, a lot of great, instrumental sections. It's heavy, it's rocking, a lot of prog stuff. So it's just them doing what they do, to an expert level. And I also have, this is in an olive green color in the vinyl, so I thought I'd showcase that. Yeah, so I thought this was really neat and a great color to accompany the packaging here. Alright, back to some more of the classic albums that have been featured on the channel. This is Ziggy Stardust from David Bowie, The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars, a classic 70s record that we featured on our classic album series that we really enjoyed. So this is just, once again, kind of a standard version, but just wanted to have it to be able to showcase it a bit on the channel. And so, really cool. I'm glad to have it in my collection. You'll probably get a little bit of a spoiler alert through these vinyl haul. I've been kind of trying to prep some upcoming classic albums with Jana and trying to buy them in advance. So you might see a couple of those selections coming up as I go through these. This is Led Zeppelin, House of the Holy. This is a classic Led Zeppelin record. I talked about Led Zeppelin on the channel last year, but I actually talked about Led Zeppelin 4 was the record I talked about personally, but I thought Led Zeppelin would be a fun band to cover in the future for classic albums. And when I was listening through the Led Zeppelin albums, this is the one that stood out to me, at least. I thought this was excellent and was just excited to want to listen to it and to discuss it on the channel. So I'm going to do it with Jana in a future episode. So really beautiful inside there, and just a really cool vinyl to have in my collection. So here we are. So this next one is kind of an interesting one I haven't really discussed at all on the channel. This is a new mix of a classic, classic more it's modern, but it's from the 90s. From 97 this album came out. This is Discipline, an American prog band, and their album Unfolded Like Staircase, which is really cool. That this is, I always liked this when it came out. When I heard it, of course I heard it a few years later. I didn't really get into prog till 2000 or so. But when I heard it, I thought it was really great. The only thing that slightly wasn't great about it to me was the production value. I just thought it didn't sound really super great and was a little bit amateur in its production values. But this is kind of remixed by Terry Brown, so I've heard good things about it. I haven't actually listened to this yet, but I was excited to pick it up because I want to hear it in its kind of new remixed form and see how I feel about that, just kind of the lyrics inside. And it's a cool red vinyl here, so I thought that really was neat. Just this kind of deep red color. So yeah, I'm excited to get into. It's been a long time since I've actually heard that record, and I've been interested to kind of hear it in a new context with all the new prog knowledge that I have now. So should be a fun one to get into. Maybe I'll talk about it briefly on a future episode or something, but for now, this is a really fun record that I'm excited for. Alright, so next I've got a cool album that came out a few years ago. This is Wobbler, From Silence to Somewhere. I actually picked this up because I ordered the new upcoming vinyl versions of their first 3 albums. This is actually their 4th album, but I thought, if I'm getting their first 3 albums, I've got to collect all of them, and I have their most recent one in my collection already. So this is actually the 4th one that came out, and one that had a lot of critical acclaim. Their Wobbler is a Norwegian band that's really kind of plays in that retro prog style, and they're really, really great players and really kind of sound like Yes and a little bit of a Gentle Giant influence, and just has a cool melting pot of these kind of cool classic prog influences. And so I really love the band. I really love this record. This is one of their best. So definitely felt like this was a worthy one to add to the collection here, and I'm excited. In the next Vinyl Haul video, hopefully I'll have the first 3 Wobbler records to show off from their kind of reissues of them that they're doing this year. So definitely a band to check out if you love classic progressive rock. This is really excellent. Alright, so these next 2 albums are ones that you would definitely not consider prog. They're more in kind of the pop or just standard rock kind of vein here. But these are just artists I like, so I'm not going to apologize for having these. The first is Taylor Swift and her redone version of the Red album, which I think is one of her best albums. She's just an excellent singer-songwriter and has such great material and great songs. This even has kind of an epic piece, as it were, a 10-minute version of one of her songs. So I'm really into the project of her kind of reclaiming her music. She's basically re-recording her music so that she can have the total control and rights to it, and I think that's a really cool thing. And so I wanted to support that, and I just really like her. My sisters are really into Taylor Swift and played it all the time around the house and such. And so it's an artist that I feel some kind of connection to because of that, because of my sister's love for her, and I think she's actually really talented as an artist. And I thought this was a cool version to pick up because the vinyl itself is actually red as well, so I thought that fit the name of the album, so really cool. The next one was kind of a random purchase. I saw it, go up for sale online, and it kind of brought back memories of liking this record back when it came out, back when I was more into like the alternative rock kind of stuff before I really got into prog. I liked this band. Of course, this album came out when I was already aware of prog, but but I liked it at the time when it was kind of like a transitional phase where I was still into the alternative rock scene, but also dipping my toes into the prog music. But this is Red Hot Chili Peppers, Stadium Arcadium. I'm also considering it very distant future, but for like a classic albums type show with Jan, I thought might be fun to kind of feature some more modern artists at some point. So this is one that I'm considering. And I know this maybe isn't the classic one that everyone would say is the best Chili Peppers album, but for me, it just brings such nostalgia, and I just really love it because at the time I was really into this. And so just wanted to have it in my collection. And it's a big sprawling like double album. You know, it comes with these two different vinyls here. Both of them are double albums, so it's a big sprawling disc, and has a lot of content on it. I really like their sound. I always found them to be a cool band. Kind of has this funk style to it, but in a rock context. So I unabashedly like this music. I think this is going to be a fun one to dive into, and you might see it covered well in the future, because with the classic albums we're kind of going chronologically, so it'll be a while till we get up to this stage. Could be something you'll see in a year or two on the channel. So there you go, Stadium Arcadium by Red Hot Chili Peppers. Alright, another possible spoiler alert. This is an album I picked up. I've been really kind of trying to delve back into classic 70s music, as you can see. That's why I'm doing the classic album series with Jana. And it's not always necessarily classic rock, even. So that's where this kind of came in. Court and Spark by Joni Mitchell. I've been enjoying Joni Mitchell's music. I think it's just beautiful, well-written singer-songwriter stuff. Just really classic material, and I'm really into it at the moment, and I think Jana would really like this. She hasn't heard this before, so I thought it would be a cool one to feature someday on the channel. So this may be a classic albums in the future, but it's a good record. You know, you can't deny that it's just great singer-songwriter with maybe a bit of a jazzy kind of touch. Beautiful music by a great artist. Now back into kind of more of a newer release here. This is an EP, or I don't know if the band really wants to call it an EP, but it's basically a couple singles and kind of a soundtrack to a short film. This is The Deer Hunter and the record The Indigo Child. So I had to pick this up. I'm kind of a super fan of the group, and so anything they come out with is kind of an automatic purchase. And I thought, because of the Indigo Child theme, I thought it would be great to pick it up basically on this kind of purplish lilac indigo style color. So really appreciate that. It really looks cool, and you know, I love the singles, especially the soundtrack stuff. You know, I'm not really into listening to soundtracks so much, but I think it's cool to kind of have that as a document to the sound of their short film that they produced that I thought was pretty good. So check that one out. It's pretty cool. All right, now I wanted to talk about the albums I got for Christmas. Basically, my parents were really generous and got me a few records amongst some other things. And, you know, I believe my dad really is the one who got these ones. And, of course, they lean more towards classic prog because that's what we share. If you've seen the videos with my dad, he's really into, you know, Genesis and Yes and those style bands. So I think he was really excited because I kind of created a list of things I thought would be cool to receive. And he, of course, picked out a lot of the more classic, older prog stuff. But these are the albums I got from my dad, essentially, for Christmas this year, for 2021. So the first one is Jethro Tull, the album A. I was really interested in this one. I haven't heard this before, but I'm going through all the Jethro Tull records right now in plans for basically an album rankings for Jethro Tull. And this is their 1980 record. And I was interested in it because this is a recent remakes by Steven Wilson, as you can see at the bottom. So I'm always into Steven Wilson's remixes. I think he does an incredible job bringing these classic albums to life. And so I was really interested to hear this one. I've heard a couple selections from it, and even though I know it's not regarded as maybe one of the best Toll albums, I was really liking what I was hearing with it. I think there's some, you know, feeling that maybe it's not a true Jethro Tull album, more of an Anderson kind of solo album that was converted into a Jethro Tull album. That's what I remember reading about it. But, you know, if the music's good, I'll be into it. So I'll be listening to this soon as part of my album rankings that I'm doing, and we'll definitely be checking back in on that Jethro Tull show that I'm planning. Next is kind of two albums that go together. This is the classic Nursery Crime from Genesis. Of course, when I told my dad I didn't have some of these classic Genesis albums, he had to go find them and pick them up for me. So not just this one, but also Foxtrot as well. So these are both incredible records. Definitely essential purchases for any prog fan. Definitely excited to re-listen to these on the vinyl. Some really cool stuff inside. Just really happy to have these in my collection. You know, I had Selling England by the Pound and The Lamb Lies Down Broadway and Trick of the Tail, you know, but I felt like to round that out with the kind of classic era, at least in my mind, that I had to have these as well. So thankful for my dad for picking those up for me. And he also kind of went above and beyond picking up this kind of box set thing that I wasn't expecting. This was kind of a surprise. It's the Emerson, Lake and Palmer anthology, 1970 to 1998. This is really cool. It's a box set. It contains 4 LPs, and it's basically just selections from their whole catalog, some of their biggest songs from all across of their albums. And so this is going to be really fun to delve into. I'm really excited. You know, I've done a little bit of ELP on the channel with Jana, doing some Jana Reacts. They're a band that I am familiar with, especially their kind of classic albums, but I've never been as big a fan of them as I have with like Genesis and Yes and even Gentle Giant. But I really appreciate what they do, and I think they're an amazing trio of musicians, of course, that are just next level. And this is cool because each one kind of has a different color to it, and you know, has a lot of cool designs on the vinyl itself. You know, this is really cool. So just a really neat package, and really excited to have these albums on vinyl. So it's not the full albums in their catalog, it's kind of more of a selection, but it's pretty inclusive. It has a lot of their music on it, a lot of things that you'd want to hear from the band. So I'm excited to delve into it on this format. So thankful to my dad for these records that he got me. Very special, and we have such a close connection with music, so always cool. And hopefully I'll have him on the channel again at some point. I've been trying to work it out. I know a lot of people have requested it. It's hard to work with our schedules. My dad's often busy, and he has to travel all the way here to do a video with me, but we're kind of planning on it, so it's something that should happen in the coming month or so. And then finally, one I just received this week, kind of again off the beaten path, not really something that you'd expect to see on a prog channel, but this is a group I've always been in love with. I just think they're really talented. It's more in a bluegrass style, which, you know, who would have known that I'd love a bluegrass band? But this is the Punch Brothers. I think they have kind of almost a progressive spirit oftentimes, because they're really virtuosos of their instruments. They do things that are a little bit different. They kind of do hybrid styles. Maybe they'll put in something that's a little bit classical sounding, infuse a little bit of pop into their traditional bluegrass. I believe this is more of a traditional bluegrass record, though. I believe it's a tribute to a classic bluegrass record that they wanted to highlight. But really excited to delve into this one. Just kind of a personal favorite of mine, and you know, on a cool yellowish kind of vinyl. So I'm excited for that one. That should be a fun one to dive into. Don't know if anyone out there will have similar taste to me on that one, but just thought it was cool, and for completion's sake wanted to showcase it. So those are the vinyl releases that I've gotten over the past few months. Hopefully there's something you guys liked in there. I think there's some cool progressive things, even if a sprinkling of stuff that you probably don't care for, but that's cool. You know, everyone's entitled to their tastes, and it's just fun to kind of show off the things I've gotten recently. So thank you guys so much for joining me. Hopefully you've enjoyed this show. I do want to plug a little bit my new podcast. It's not really new material, but I'm basically taking this show and putting it into a podcast format for people who'd rather listen to my shows on the go or while they're out and about, don't really have access to YouTube for whatever reason, and they'd rather listen to it on a podcast. So I've officially started that. It's out there, called Nathan on Shuffle. Basically, I'm still working on getting it all on all the platforms and such, but I believe it's already on Apple. It's already on different sites. It's on Spotify. So I'm going to try to give more information like in the descriptions when that becomes more available. And so it's not a separate thing, it's just the exact same shows but in a podcast format. And I probably won't do like this show in a podcast because I feel like the whole point of this show is to showcase the vinyl, so it's kind of a very visual show. And I won't be putting the Jana Reacts stuff on there because, you know, that depends on visual reaction and watching Jana listen to it in real time. But for my New Music Friday stuff, for album reviews, for even album rankings, I think all of that will work well as a podcast, so that'll be converted into a podcast form. But of course, the YouTube channel is going to remain the same. All the great stuff that I hope you guys are enjoying will remain here, but I just wanted to give that information out in case you'd prefer kind of a podcast version of the show in certain scenarios. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Hopefully you enjoyed this discussion of several new vinyl releases that I received in the past little while. Hopefully I'll be doing another one in a few months. It should be kind of fun. Hopefully I'll have a good build-up of some interesting releases. Please check out all my old videos if you want to know more about a lot of these releases. I've done a lot of album reviews of a lot of the ones I showcased and some classic album shows with Jana for some of the ones I've showcased. So always look back towards those, because if you missed out, they're all there for you to click on and to view. So thank you guys so much. Hopefully you're enjoying your music out there. Let me know in the comments if there's any releases that you've gotten recently that you want to talk about, some great new records that you have gotten. So just really excited to be able to be here and to talk to you guys. And so hopefully you enjoyed the show, and I'll see you guys hopefully in another video. And please just keep enjoying the music. Thank you guys so much. Bye.